good advice, bad advice, and worse advice about proactive security. I'll start with you, Jeff. Jeff, give me some good advice about proactive security.
Some good advice about proactive security is to make sure you take the information you're getting from your red teams or incident response teams and funnel that into your teams that are making things better.
That is some good advice. Dan, give me some bad advice.
I think bad advice would be the blue team trusting that you've configured every security device in your ecosystem correctly.
And Jeff, can you top that? Can you give me some worse advice?
Turn off all those alerts. They really distract your SOC from important Netflix watching.
I agree. Let's begin.
Get ready. It's Super Cyber Friday.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Super Cyber Friday. My name is David Spark, and my thing's not good. Colors aren't changing. They should have. Anyways, today's topic is hacking proactive security, an hour of critical thinking about continually testing your defenses to improve your security posture. Our two guests, you just met them, Jeff Belknap. He's the CISO of LinkedIn. You may also know him as the co-host of the Defense in Depth podcast. And also joining us is Dan DeCloss. He's the CEO of PlexTrack. And guess what? PlexTrack is our sponsor today, and they've been a phenomenal sponsor of the CISO series, and we love having PlexTrack on. And they know something about our topic today, proactive security. So let me just quickly go over the basics. So those of you who are regulars, you've heard this many times before, 7 different ways you can participate. Chat room, submit your bad ideas and good ideas on this topic. So it's worst proactive security technique and how can we make it 10% better. So we're just looking for small tips. You can vote in the polls. You can try to be on video at any time by just saying, bring me on. You can ask a question. If you look in the bottom lower right, you see it says ask a question. Click there and ask a question. And you can also vote for your favorite question as well. All right. Our schedule, you just saw it. Good advice, bad advice, worse advice. Then worst proactive security techniques and how to make it 10% better. Get those in by the 20-minute mark. Well, specifically the bad ideas by the 20-minute mark because we're going to be putting up the poll at 20 minutes. We will play the public interest. That's our new game that's become quite popular. Also, we will put a poll live up on that. Then we'll also play our game That Totally Sucks. Those of you who haven't seen it, you'll see it. It's a lot of fun. We'll play the Department of Yes. Then we will have our other poll that'll go up. And then the 2 worst idea contenders will come on. Last question, final advice. And then finally, our meetup, which is a lot of fun. You need to stick around for our meetup. If you've never participated, it's a lot of fun. So please stick around. You do not need to be a CISO. Somebody asked me that because, I didn't feel I should go because I'm not a CISO. You do not need to be a CISO. Anybody who's on is welcome to join us. Next Friday, our topic is hacking risk reduction, an hour of critical thinking about actions we should take to lower risk. And guess what? The link to register for that is at the very bottom of the screen. You can click on that at any time during today's Super Cyber Friday, and you will not be taken out of this event. It will keep you in this event, but allow you to still register for next Friday. And here's the key thing. If you register by 5 p.m. next Tuesday, you're automatically entered in a raffle to win a kick-ass awesome CISO Series jacket. All right. With all that said, let's get back to the show right now. Dan, I'm going to start with you and ask you this very question because it is our topic, just so everyone knows what the heck we're talking about. Explain to me what proactive security is.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to it in the kind of the subtitle of the show, but proactive security is a paradigm for continuous security assessment, identifying the security gaps in your environment, and activities would include penetration testing on a continuous basis, purple teaming exercises, proactive incident response like tabletop exercises, threat hunting, those types of categories of activities to really identify where are the gaps before the attackers identify them for you.
So it would be right to say this is just a more understandable term of purple teaming because a lot of people just don't know what purple teaming is, and proactive security makes a little more sense to most people.
Yeah, I think it kind of helps define the paradigm from, hey, we're in a proactive mindset rather than a reactive mindset. And purple teaming tends to get that notion of a much more technical exercise where, proactive can be like, hey, we're doing a regular tabletop exercise where it's not conducting red team activities per se. It's just how would we respond to ransomware, right? Something like that.
How would the whole company respond? So is that how you sort of approach it yourself, Jeff? Sort of strip away the mystique of the technical aspect and just say, hey, just how would we deal with this as a company, everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the, red teaming and purple teaming and blue teaming are all great terms of art, but really when you go to talk to the executive team or the board, it's better to just leave that stuff aside and think that, hey, instead of being reactive and instead of only fixing things that an adversary or someone else has identified for us, we're going to, just as Dan said, we're going to understand our environment and where our mistake surface or our attack surface exists. We're gonna go address the things that we think in sort of order of priority that we should address. The nice thing is, if you're doing proactive security well, you're using what you would traditionally consider red team techniques to help you prioritize what you want to fix first or where you want to invest resources for the coming year.
All right. Let me also just remind people to
send them in. We need your bad ideas.
And to register for next week's as well. Now, this is a really basic question, and I think most kind of know this answer, but I'd like, your sort of viewpoint of this, Dan. We talk a lot about security fundamentals and the CIS controls, which we're a big fan of. And there's purple teaming. So what is the grand difference between purple teaming, or we should call proactive security, and doing the CIS controls?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, like, CIS controls are laying the framework for like how you should implement security measures and controls, right? So how are you are you configuring things correctly? Are you implementing policies? So purple teaming would be the actual validation that you've done those things correctly, and helping identify what those if there's any gaps based on your implementation of those security controls. So there's that verification and validation model that really comes in, that bridges that gap as well between how we're complying with security frameworks like the CIS controls, as well as what are the true gaps in our environment that could be exploited.
That seems a good way. It's just validation that you're doing your work. And let me ask, what percentage of your effort, Jeff, is put into validation? And do you ever feel that you've done enough validation, I guess is my question? Or you can always do more?
Oh, you can always do more. I don't know that I don't know that I'll ever go to sleep at night and go, oh, good job. We just validated the crap out of that. I generally think that where mindset has shifted, before it was sort of like, great, there's a hack, we're going to deploy the patch, and then we're going to move on with our life. Now, everything down to when we build an alert or detection on top of some data source that we have, the engineers on the detection engineering team are writing smoke tests and alerts to make sure that the data that the alert is based on doesn't go away, that the alert still works, that an attack will still trigger the alert, and then an attack that still doesn't work hasn't reverted and started working again. So I think, just like we have evolved how we build software with all kinds of unit tests and individual smoke tests, we're doing that now for all parts of security, and that's healthy and good and valuable.
I want to tag kind of the joke that Jeff was just making, and maybe you can speak to this to the people who have used your product, Dan. And for those of you who don't know, it's kind of like a platform to actually conduct these exercises and to understand essentially your environment and essentially do continuous improvement. Is there a moment, and the answer may be like, no, we haven't achieved it yet, but is there a moment where there is a diminishing rate of return on validation? Like, yes, you can always be validating, but at some point, like, you've done enough, and the answer might be like, no, we haven't seen it yet. What do you think?
I mean, I think there's always more to be done, right? Like Jeff was saying, but I think it's also, hey, are we if we're testing like a certain technique, right, or a tactic, like let's say the MITRE attack tactics, are great reference points. So like, hey, we feel like we maybe have a big gap in lateral movement. You could get to a point where like, okay, we've tested this a lot. Where are the other gaps that we should be focused on a little bit more? So I think it's more a balance of, hey, we feel like we've got some good coverage here. We'll continue to test some of these things, but let's focus maybe more on now privilege escalation or data exfiltration, just to make sure that we don't have gaps there. And it's always going to evolve because, in security, the attackers never sleep. It's going to be a continuous cat and mouse game, right? So I think that there's never going to be a point of diminishing returns, but I think you can really track and measure your progress, which is ultimately the goal. It's always a marathon, and you can actually identify and show like, hey, here's where we were when we first started this paradigm shift, and here's where we are now, and here's what we're continuing to focus on.
And Jeff, do you do that to, I guess, make the other executives and the board sort of feel that, oh, well, our money's getting well spent because we're actually seeing improvement, and we could get into the discussion of metrics here, but are you showing sort of a proactive security program like, we're validating, we're doing this, we're checking this, here's where we were last year, here's where we are now, here's what we've done to get there? And I'm assuming they want to see that, to know that they're spending their money wisely on people and tools.
Oh God, I wish that was more the case. I think the reality is I do that and my peers do that because it's our job. We're the ones that are that carry the fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the security program is getting executed well. And while the executive team and the board have oversight and they're making sure that I'm not, I don't know, spending on Xboxes or stand-up arcade games or something, it's my job to make sure that I'm representing a fulsome picture of our protection and our risk to the board and to the executive team. And where you fall into traps is when you over-focus on something, right? You sort of fall down a rabbit hole of going, I'm only looking at lateral movement or privilege escalation. You forget about all these other things. One of the easiest traps for a security team to fall into is we only have risk in this one area. We're going to forget about all this other stuff like third-party connectivity or, vendors that have VPN connections, or, maybe we don't, maybe you're not like LinkedIn. Maybe you don't have a web app or a web presence and you're not thinking about that. Well, spoiler, you probably have a broader presence than you think. So if you don't think about testing yourself more fulsomely, you miss things and you become less informed, right? You have to test things. Even, I think this is my favorite part of purple teaming or proactive security is you test things even if you assume that like, that's not impacting us. We don't have to worry about this. Cool, run the test. Get some data to validate that so you know whether you should be focusing on that or not.
That's a really good point. And that actually leads really nicely into this question. And I'm going to throw this to you, Dan. This comes from David Alkema. And he asks, how do you select your targets for purple teaming? Which is kind of what Jeff was asking. And so I'll ask you, like, how do I know what I should be testing?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's also, I mean, it's also like very synonymous with, hey, where do I get started in security, right? And what I've always advised people, and when I was running a program, is, well, let's start with our crown jewels. Let's start with what we think are the most valuable assets in our environment, and make sure we've got those as buttoned up as we think we can have them. Then test those, right? Test the controls around what you've put there, and then continue to branch out from there. And I think that also helps with having both an internal assessment paradigm and program as well as external assessment, because Jeff, I'm sure you've probably identified this as well, is like you can get a little myopic because your environment so well, right? So it's like, oh, I know we have a problem here, and so we're just gonna like hammer this, and then we go get an external pen test, and oh, whoops, they got into like the easiest vector that we just overlooked, right? And so that's the goal, is to really help identify those gaps, even if you're being myopic in one area or another.
My favorite thing though is to go one step further and like, hey, you purple team, this is what I think my crown jewels are. What do you think they are as an attacker from an outside perspective?
Exactly. No, that's great. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure that opens up other things. Dutch Schwartz from AWS asked a really good question here. And Dan, you and I have talked about this at great length about, you were at one time a pen tester yourself, right, Dan?
Yes, that's correct.
And by the way, I've had this conversation with multiple pen testers of you do a pen test, you do it again the next year. Literally, you could have written the same exact report. Like you could have just photocopied it and sent it in.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. They have done nothing. And they just, it's a compliance effort here. So Dutch asks this question, and that is, what is holding back companies from actually adopting proactive security? And could the answer to this just be like, what's holding companies back from security, period. I mean, it could be that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the misnomer that we don't have enough time, or we don't have enough talent, right, to be able to do that. I think that the notion that we can start somewhere and it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be small, right? When I had a security team of about 5 people, and we just started with some simple testing techniques that helped teach our team how to do some of these red team activities. Doesn't have to be an expert red teamer, being very careful. But I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen is just people thinking that, oh, we can't get there yet because we're not mature enough or whatnot. And I think it's just a mindset shift of like, no, I mean, we got to start somewhere, right? And let's just start small and do the crawl, walk, run scenario.
All right, let me just. I'm sorry. Did you hear the crowd? They're getting very excited about all the bad ideas that have come in. And
there's a
lot
of bad ideas in here.
There's a lot of bad ideas. This is just, let me point out with this crowd, we always have an overwhelming number of bad ideas versus good ideas. Like it's multifold. I don't know what that's saying about this group. Either they like bad ideas or just they're full of bad ideas.
The industry
more
never
than
stops
good
innovating,
ones.
David.
What?
The industry never stops innovating.
They never stop innovating. Yes, good point.
They're breaking them out.
So I greatly appreciate that. But I want to just mention that to those people getting the bad ideas, you have exactly 4 minutes to get your bad ideas to be eligible in the poll. Although you get bad ideas all throughout because we pick the winner for the jacket, because you also get a bad idea for the jacket. We do that by Monday. We will let you know who wins that as well. All right. And don't forget to register for next week's video chat Friday, which will be we're going to be on a 2-week hiatus after that. All right. Let's get to another question here. Actually, before I do, I want to get your answer to Dutch's question too of why you think companies are being held back, Jeff, from doing proactive security, and maybe they don't even think that it is a thing to do. What do you think?
I think it's a complicated answer. I don't think there's one answer, but I think the most common thing that I see falls into 2 categories. One, they are being proactive, but there's often so much to do. You can only pick a couple of things to prioritize at once. The security teams will never be as big or as well funded as they could be to attack every problem that an organization has. And that wouldn't be realistic. The organization has to go to market and sell its products and service its customers and deliver value. The other side of it is, we're trying, and a lot of times we, the industry, CISOs and security programs are trying. And a lot of times what happens is when you hit a bump in the road, when you have an incident or something that distracts you, it can both be good and bad. In that the good is now you will get the attention. This will get resolved, assuming it's a good company. You're going to get this resolved. This is not going to happen again. But while you are busy with all hands on deck working on that problem, you are not addressing everything else that you might need to address. And it distracts from being good at the fundamentals, because now you're just laser focused on this one thing that lightning may never strike again on this one thing unless it's something silly. And I think that reactivity draws us away from being proactive. And we think we're all doing good and the organization is very happy about that, but it distracts us from understanding that security is a journey. It is not a destination. Because you have this one thing fixed does not mean you are any closer to some fantastical destination of secure than you were before. You're much better off, but we have to bring things back to look at the whole picture of what's going on in the organization, and that can be hard.
All right, I want to get to this one question before we get to our next game, and this is from Paul Lancy, and I really like this question, and I'm going to throw this one to you, Dan, first. Between the 3 zero trust areas, network, identity, and endpoint, which one is the hardest to protect proactively? And I'm going to amend that question with, which do you see, I guess, the most alerts on, Dan? Like, which one has, I guess, the more fail points, maybe even?
So it was network, identity, and what was the third one again? Cloud.
Here, network, identity, and endpoint. Yeah,
and
network, identity, and endpoint.
Gosh. Well, I think you probably see more alerts at the network layer because, I mean, there's just going to be lots of other like noise coming in there. So that's what gets filtered out. I think the hardest one to me would probably be the identity piece, because proving who you are is one of the hardest things to do in security. And that's what attackers do once they're in, is they masquerade as other people, right? So you're not going to get, I think you're going to get fewer alerts on what would be nefarious behavior, right?
That's a good point, because you may think you're more secure than you are, because that's the area where you see more creative attacks, if you will. What would you agree with that? And that you're going to see more alerts on the network layer, but the toughest is the identity layer, Jeff?
Identity is, yeah. I mean, I think between identity and endpoint, I'd have a tough time picking one. Endpoint's always really tough because you're touching something people use every day, and it can go wrong, right? The most important thing in security is that we get the user experience right. Because if we degrade the user experience and we don't communicate why, or we don't compensate for that, people will naturally, the inertia of that, they will make decisions not in the best interest of security or the organization. With identity, if you screw that up, people aren't getting their work done. You're disconnecting vendors, or you're disconnecting employees, or you're adding friction to their day. So I think both of those things where they touch people, like that can be one of the hardest places to get things done.
All right. We have...
It's time to play a brand new game.
So we're going to have this little bumper. It's time to play a brand new game for the public interest for a while, until we make a bumper for the public interest, which we haven't done yet. All right. This game is easy, and everyone in the chat room can play along as well. Really, you're just trying to determine, of these terms that I'm showing you, which has the highest search volume. So let's start with the first one here. Which gets more average monthly search queries, the word criminal or the word hacker? And by the way, I don't want to hear it from the audience that a hacker is not a criminal. I know, I get it. I got it.
Need the lecture, Dave.
I don't even need to hear it. Hacker or criminal, which do you think? Jeff and Dan, what do you think?
No, I'm going to say hacker for sure.
Hacker more volume? What do you think, Dan?
I mean, I don't know. Probably, I was going to say criminal just because it seems more broad. But
You're going criminal?
I'm going criminal.
All right, just going hacker, and the correct answer is?
Oh, yeah.
Hacker it is! Everyone who answered B did very, very well. A lot of B's in there. Okay, good job, everyone. All right, so that means 1 for Jeff, 0 for Dan right now. And this, by the way, this is going to roll over to our next game that we're going to play a few minutes after this. All right, right up your alley, Dan. Which ones get the highest monthly searches? Red team, blue team, purple team. Now, I want to throw out, this is just a search for these. This could be a summer camp that has a red team, a blue team, and a purple team, too. You never know.
I'm going to go red team.
All right. Jeff?
I'm going to go red team as well.
All right. All right. And you are both correct, red team. All right. 2 for Jeff, 1 for Dan.
I'm feeling good and happy that blue team is working its way
Still
up.
pretty solid there, yeah.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Purple team is lacking.
By the way, good answer on moving purple team to proactive security, because you see how far it's falling behind. All right, here we go. Black hat hacker versus white hat hacker. What do you guys think?
Oh, man, this is a good one. I'm going to guess black hat hacker, because that movie was amazing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what it must be.
Dan, you're saying the same?
Yeah.
Okay. And the correct answer is black hat hacker. Correct. Black hat hacker wins again here. All right. Last one. Cyber extortion or cyber theft. So, by the way, 3-2 so far in Jeff's favor.
Oh, this cyber theft.
I'm going to say B. Yeah.
Extortion's hard to spell.
It's just an odd word for cyber to be in front of.
You are correct, but it's very close.
Ooh,
Extremely close. All right.
Yeah.
Good answer. Okay, so 4. Jeff got all 4 correct. Excellent job, Jeff.
Very nice.
Very impressed. 3 for you. You will see this will play into our next game. That totally sucks. But I'm going to go to one of our questions. Oh, before I do, I want to let everybody know that the poll is live. Please vote for the best bad idea, because we are going to be playing in 6 minutes. So 6-7 minutes, or maybe a little bit later, because we play this. I want to do one question, and then I want to get to our next game. So the one question I want to ask is from Jonathan Waldrop. And he asked questions. For third-party proactive security services, pen tests, what are some tips on vendor selection? This is a good one, and I think you might have a lot of insight, Dan, since you deal with a lot of vendors because of your very tool. What do you think? What are your tips?
Yeah, I think ask for a sample report. I think getting third party references from people that you trust, like who have you used in the past, because what we do see a lot of, there's I think in general is there's amazingly good pen testers out there, and then there are scan regurgitators, right? Just in the industry at large, right? So you want to I think that's one aspect, but then you also want to, hey, what are your areas of strength versus what I'm focused on right now? Like if it's a web pen test, you probably want to go with somebody that has more focus on AppSec than NetPen, right? So I think some of those are some of the basic criteria that we've advised people to take when selecting a vendor.
All right. We are now going. Oh, actually, I want before I do this, Jeff, give me your answer to this very question. How do you choose a pen test vendor?
I think that second point that Dan made is really the key area. Like, you should definitely get referrals from friends and family or whoever has used them before, but pick somebody that has some experience in the thing that you're most focused on. If you're an IoT company and you're a public utility, don't get somebody whose expertise is web apps. You need somebody that has experience specifically in the thing that you're dealing with, because they're going to be able to give you the most feedback about how to fix the problems that they're finding, or how they compare to other people, and more importantly, how to prioritize those results.
Good point. All right, now our next game.
Oh no, that totally sucks.
All right, this is how this game plays. All right, behind these 12 boards here, Jeff and Dan, are 11 things you do not want to get. One of them has something you do want. They are different degrees of badness in your company, in the cybersecurity world, if you will, or in the security world, if you will. Now, since you started with 7, you would have to pick 7. But Jeff, since you answered 4 correct, you will only need to pick 3. But Dan, since you got only 3 right, you're going to need to pick 4.
Okay.
But you could pick the one that is very good underneath all of these. So I'm going to have you start first. Pick a number 1 through 12, and we'll see what you get. And the idea is, at the end of this, from all the items that you've collected, who has the worst environment, and our audience will determine that. All right? So, Dan, pick a number 1 through 12.
Let's do 7.
Number 7 in, that is budget for 10 more head point. Excellent
That's
job.
good, right?
This is,
I think you
win.
You got the good one. That is the one
sweet.
good one. So the other 11 are bad. So Dan is actually, Dan's going to be red. I'm going to make Dan red. And Jeff, you will be blue. So Jeff, you now pick.
I'm going to pick lucky number 6.
Number 6. And that is, you pay the bill to the attacker instead of the vendor. Not
Nice.
good. That wasn't good. All right, Dan, you pick.
Let's do 11.
11. All right. Oh, and your SSL decryption and firewalls are now disabled. Yeah. That's not good at all. We're gonna change this red, and we'll see. The idea is when we see the collection of it, who has the worst environment. All right, Jeff, you pick.
I don't love this. Let's try number 1.
Number 1. Let's see what you get. Oh, a DDoS attack. It's not what you wanted. I think that might be our worst one. I don't know. Let's see. Dan, you pick.
Let's do 5.
5. Bring food and drink in server room. Not that awful. So they're varying degrees of bad. So this is the lower degree of bad. You're doing actually pretty well right now, Dan. Jeff, you pick.
This is a lot of stress. 4.
4 it is. Terminated employee walked out with data. Oh,
not great.
Not good. It's not looking good for you, Jeff, at all. Dan, you pick. Last one.
Let's do number 3.
Number 3, and that is adware, spyware infection. Not a big deal. All right. So Jeff has a DDoS attack, paid the bill to an attacker instead of vendor, and terminated employee walked out with data. Pretty rough, Jeff.
Honestly, just another Friday insecurity.
But Dan got the budget for 10 more headcount, although he has the annoying thing of the adware and spyware infection, bringing food and drink in the server room, and the SSL decryption and firewalls disabled, which
Let's just hope zero trust is working, right?
You got to hope zero trust is working. All right. We have the poll up for Dan and Jeff. Is that up now? It should be the Dan and Jeff poll up there. We're going to come back to it. We'll just come back to it in just a couple of minutes before we play. But please get that poll up. It's up. Is it up? It should be up. So I want you to vote who has the worst environment. Is it Dan or is it Jeff? I'm going to leave that up just for a moment so everybody can see, but I'm actually going to close it right now. Oh, yes, the poll is up. So everyone take a look. I'm closing this right now, but just remember who had what, because I want to get us on the screen. And then we will, I'm going to ask another question or two, and then we'll play another game after that. This is a good question. I'm going to start with you, Jeff, on this one. This comes from Angie Broadwater, who asks, what red team tools are the best for the blue team to use for defense?
Oh, red team tools that the blue team could use for defense. I think, without going into any tool names, because I'm just not that smart, there are a fair number of tools that I think are really useful for the blue team. One example are there is a tool that will scrape your Slack and or Teams environment looking for sensitive information, SSH keys, AWS, Google, Azure, keys and things like public keys, encryption, anything sensitive that an attacker might be able to use to move laterally or to continue their access to their environment. That's fantastic for the blue team because that's the kind of work that you'd want the blue team to be doing on a regular basis so that they can proactively, you're welcome, Dan, follow up on that stuff and improve things. So I think, any kind of recon or surveillance tool is a really valid and important tool for a blue team to be using to protect the environment.
All right, Dan, maybe you do know the name of these tools, but I bet you know a slew of tools for, again, red team tools for blue teams.
Yeah, we're, on the open source side, there's tons of tools like Jeff was mentioning.
Oh, by the way, Depti Patel just pasted a ton of things in right here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there's a lot of those types of tools, right? That can be open source. Another one that we're a big fan of and good friends with is Red Canary's Atomic Red Team. Those are techniques that the blue team could actually go and say, okay, I'm going to execute these things. So and any scripts related to those. And then when you get into the paid side of the house, there's lots of breach and attack simulation tools, pen test as a service tools that really will help emulate those attacks while being able to identify, hey, did we have logs and forensic evidence around these, or did they get blocked and things like that. So those can be very helpful for the blue team as well.
By the way, Jeff, you did win, and that totally sucks. So I see a vote 16-4. But amazingly, I thought you ran away in terms of winning with the worst environment. But again, Dan, 4 people still voted for you. Thought your environment was far worse. But I think adware, spyware, food in the server room. But you got the 10 employees. I think you definitely had it much better than Jeff.
Way to play.
Someone said just because you have the budget doesn't mean that you get the employees, though. I thought that's a fair point.
That is a good argument. That is a good argument.
Find, right?
It's a problem, but it's a good problem, and I feel like it's a better problem than paying your attackers.
Definitely.
Yeah. Something definitely was under the hood there that caused that to happen.
Yeah. Well done.
So, anyways. Kudos to you, Jeff, on winning that totally sucks. See, because here's the thing that points out. Jeff won in the public interest, which caused you to have to essentially absorb more of these bad things happening. But you got lucky. You picked the good one and a few of the ones that are not the so truly awful as what Jeff did. So it could go either way.
Here for Super Cyber Friday.
All right. Let me all right, you know what? Let's, a call just came in.
Hello, welcome to the Department of Yes, where no request is ever rejected.
All right, we have bad ideas that have come in, and I haven't even read all these, but...
nice of your mom to record these for you.
This is nice. That is actually the voice of Julie, who's the voice of the CISO series. You hear her on all the podcasts for that matter. Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. Remember, this is Department of Yes, and you have to answer this not facetiously, but answer it legitimately of why you would actually want to do this. So I'll start with you, Dan. And again, speak up if this is your bad idea. Use Cards Against Humanity to predict upcoming threats and orient defenses around the happening. So distribute a card deck to the board so they can play along as well. So it's kind of like the game we just played, That Totally Sucks. It's kind of almost the same. So why do you actually want to do this? I actually don't think this is that awful an idea.
I think you get awareness to the board of some of the things that happen on a daily basis for protecting your environment.
I'm going to give that to you because, again, I don't think this is that awful. I mean, you're just sort of randomly coming up with bad things, but if you randomly come up with any bad thing, that's still kind of good. Yes, Jeff?
I feel like some of you have not played Cards Against Humanity. And neither have I, if anyone is curious. But I do like, there's another game I think Microsoft came up with called Elevation of Privilege, which I think does something very similar. And to Dan's point, of like not a terrible idea.
Okay, so why do you want to deploy this one though? Use Cards Against Humanity to predict. Why would it be good for your environment, Jeff?
Oh, I was hoping Dan would have to.
No, Dan answered once, and you have to answer too.
Why would it be good? In your role as a security leader, you are always chief narrative weaver and chief storyteller, and Cards Against Humanity, great way to spur a narrative and a story around this thing, which help people connect.
Great answer. I like it. Very, very good. And by the way, that was Ted Bardouche. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name, Ted. You have that. So, Ted, please make sure your audio and video is ready because we're going to want to bring you up in a few minutes to defend why your idea is truly the worst, even though we kind of think it's kind of good. Higher, and I don't even know how we're supposed to pronounce this. Higher lapis $? Is that how we're pronouncing?
Lapis.
Just lapis, just because it's like 2 S's. Just hire lapis before you get breached by them. So this is the classic hire the bad guy and bring them into your environment. I will start with you again, Dan. Why do you want to do this?
Well, I think innovation comes from our youth. So why not bring in 16-year-olds from their mother's basement to help improve your security program?
As my friend Steve Rosenfield, who's a comedian, would say, children are our future, and there's nothing we can do about it. So, correct. Bravo! Good job. Jeff, why do you want to do this? Hire lapis.
Yeah, just like Dan said, I think hiring anybody who can tell you what's wrong with your environment in a perspective that you don't already have is good for you at the end of the day.
There you go. Sir, yes, sir! That was from Sean Bowen, by the way, who's CISO over at World Fuel Services. And Sean, you're going to be coming on camera too as well to defend why your idea is truly the worst. But let's go to the questions here. Actually, I'm going to go to my own questions here. I want to know, I'll start with you, Jeff. Obviously, the answer is all, but we want to know where the greatest benefit can be seen. And that is, what aspects of a security program can benefit most from purple teaming exercises?
Ooh.
Who will see the benefit the most?
The answer is all, or it depends. But I think if I have to pick an answer,
yes,
your infrastructure security will almost always benefit from proactive security more than any other part of the business, because the infrastructure, which is what supports every other part of the business, whether it be you're delivering a service or you're operating some operational technology infrastructure, the parts of the company that carry that infrastructure that support it, whether it be a DNS or email or some other component, it's always going to be great to have that infrastructure be rock solid.
All right. Good answer. Dan, what do you think? Again, I know all, but I want to know most. Or who can see it quickest too?
Yeah, I was going to take a slightly different angle. I think one thing that also, really improves is the morale of the security team, being able to see that they're making progress, right?
That's a good point.
It can be it's a burnout heavy role sometimes when you just we're just getting onslaughted. We're not making any progress. How are we showing if we're making a difference? And I think that's an important piece that kind of gets overlooked is the mental health of, like, just every day I'm coming in and I'm just responding to alert after alert after alert. but now I actually have this mechanism to actually show like, hey, we're getting better, like in certain areas, right? We know we're not going to be perfect everywhere, but at least here's what we're doing to make a difference.
Now, by the way, did we get any good tips, the 10% tips? I just told the producers to throw the 10% poll. Sometimes we get very few or none, and I have to start badgering everybody to get some good ideas up. But please get those in if you haven't. Oh, 10% better poll is up. We do have a handful there, so please go ahead and vote for the 10% better items there. You can actually take the bad idea poll down for now. All right. Oh, and I want to just remind everybody, if you have not registered for next Fridays, please go ahead and do that. And in just less than 5 minutes, we're going to bring on both Sean and Ted to defend their bad ideas. So please get ready, gentlemen, with your cameras and microphones to come on camera to do just that. Here's a really good question that I wrote. Patting self on back. What is the hardest area to improve, Jeff?
Culture. Culture is the both the most important area to focus on and the hardest area to focus on, mostly because it's made up of humans, and humans are complex individuals, and they act differently than you would expect. But yeah, the culture is the most important thing to get right, and it's the easiest thing to get wrong, and it's the number one thing that will destroy security in an organization the fastest.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? You're nodding your head all the way through that, Dan.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, user behavior is the bane of a program's existence, right? Because like those are things that you can't technically really control, right? So, yeah, totally agree.
But you know what? So you can't control this. Culture is key. And if everyone did the right thing, you probably barely need a security program, but it never works that way. Are there any things, and what am I saying, anything? There are things that we put in control to protect people from themselves, which I know is common. What are some things you've done recently, Jeff, in that vein of protecting people from themselves?
Protecting people from themselves. I think
essentially maybe culture proofing security, I guess, in that way.
Well, I think there's two different things. One, sort of culture proofing security is making sure that people understand why you're doing what you're doing, that you understand the impact on humans, that security is not just all cloak and dagger and secrets, that people understand it as something that helps the business. But I think one of the things you can do to help people protect themselves from themselves, boy, I wish this was edited and not live, is, you can implement guardrails, technology that helps understand the changes that are happening in the environment and reacts to them in parallel to the change and doesn't constantly sort of gatekeep or guard post those changes. I think that helps security kind of get out of the way. And at the same time, you can respond and help people proactively point out like where we need to make changes. The other thing you can do there is make sure that you can't deploy in an insecure configuration, that the easy thing, the safest thing to do is the easiest thing to do, right? That the most secure deployment is the easiest way for you to deploy software. I think things like that really end up helping in the long run.
Same question to you. What's the hardest?
Yeah, I think,
or not the hardest. I'm sorry. The question of what can you do to sort of culture proof, or what can be put in place?
Yeah, I think trying to get to a state of positive reinforcement, right, than negative reinforcement. So that is more, kind of some of that. What would you call it? Kind of gamification to a degree. If helping encourage the right behavior rather than discouraging bad behavior, right? And I think we as humans, it's a psychological thing there, right? So if I can get rewarded or recommended or commended for something that I did right, it's going to go a lot further than I clicked on that stupid phishing link email again, and now I got to go do the training, and I think there's certainly some aspects there that the security industry at large can pick up on.
All right. Please invite both Ted and Sean on, as we want them to defend their horrible ideas as to which one is truly the worst. The two of you will be judges. As we're waiting for them, I just want to mention, excuse me, the some of the 10% good tips, because even though our audience has lots of bad ideas, they do actually eventually have some good ideas. So please speak up if these are yours. Expand your security awareness training beyond the annual check the box training, assign training by role, put up posters, etc. We are going to be interviewing a woman over at Dropbox who is a former high school teacher who set up a security awareness training over at Dropbox, which I thought, and it's because she deals very much with humans, having dealt with high schoolers, and I thought that was an interesting sort of take on how to deal with security training, for that matter. So we have Ted is on right now, and are we getting Sean in? Sean connecting? While Sean is connecting, we want to make sure reprompting. We're sending it to him again. Hopefully, what is it? May the force be with you. Is that what it is?
Yep. First derivative of momentum time. Yeah.
Ted, that is plenty nerdy.
It is.
Kudos to you. Sean having problems. Sean is accepted. Sean is coming in. All right. To remind everybody, Ted, tell us again, what was your bad idea?
My bad idea was to use Cards Against Humanity as a way to predict what's coming and then distribute the deck to the board so they can play along.
That's okay. No, David, Sean hasn't accepted. Sean has not accepted. What's going on with Sean? Where the heck is Sean right now?
Sean, why do you hate us?
Sean, where is he? Is he still here?
He's extremely introverted.
Sean, by the way, yes, that is definitely not something that Sean is. Sean has been, I think, one of the most frequent guests we've had on the CISO series. He's been on all of our programs, and introverted is not a word I would use to describe him. He jumps out, by the way, you don't know, he jumps out of airplanes. He and his wife do this. I believe with a parachute. I believe he does.
One would hope. One would hope.
I would hope at bare minimum.
If at first you don't succeed, it's not for you, right?
All right, we're re-inviting him, but let me also mention. By the way, who had that other good idea about the security awareness training? Check the box. Don't let it be that. I missed who that was. Hopefully that. The other one I liked here, and we're going to need to find a proxy. Dutch, come on and be Sean's proxy. Go ahead and invite Dutch. He's our de facto proxy for everybody. Here's another good tip that I like. Start testing it once a patch is available to ensure that it can be rolled out quickly. That's actually a pretty good tip. Do you see that actually happening, Dan? Testing on patches.
I think you see a lot of scanning for for missing patches. I think what we've seen as more of these named vulnerabilities kind of come out is definitely more proactive. Like, hey, are we vulnerable to this? Using whatever intelligence is out there at the time, just to see if they're vulnerable, rather than like waiting for the Nessus scanners and the Qualyses to get some kind of signature for the patch itself.
All right, I don't know. Are we getting Dutch on? Has Dutch been invited? Dutch is all what? It says he's on. He is on. Dutch, your video is not showing up. Are you there, Dutch?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you. Can you turn your camera on?
Strange. Yeah.
Refresh your browser too. That also often helps.
Okay.
He's refreshing. Hopefully we'll get to see him this time. We have seen him. We know he can do this. By the way, there's going to be a version 2 of Crowdcast coming out, of which you're going to be beta testers. So this look may change drastically. It's giving us a lot more capabilities for future shows. So stay tuned for that. We'll have more. It'll up the production value of this show as well. This hopefully won't happen as much. But we may have to just go by Dutch's voice. Dutch, you didn't show up. We're going by your voice. All right, Ted, defend your idea. Jeff and Dan, go ahead. Why is your idea, and specifically Sean's idea, of which Dutch is on for, is to hire Lapsus, who did the Okta attack, correct? Am I getting this all right? To hire him, I think it's just a him, to work for you. So why is your idea worse than that?
My idea is worse because it has been proven to be a successful prediction of the future. The 90s deck of Cards Against Humanity had a plane flying into the World Trade Center and blowing up. So since it has been proven to be an accurate predictor, I think it's got to be one of the worst ideas, just because anytime you pick random events and say, we will defend against that, you can wind up with some wasted resources and providing no value to the company.
That's a very good point. All right. Now we see Dutch. Excellent. Dutch, defending Sean's idea of lapsus. Why do you think you're worse than Ted's idea?
Lapsus is significantly worse because we have a replenishable supply of 16-year-olds with wealthy parents in the United States. There's a tremendous wave of that coming, and it'll just be a nonstop attack. It'll be awesome.
All right. Jeff, Dan, which one do you think is worse?
Oh, this is so tough. These are congratulations, gentlemen, and really no credit to you, Dutch, but thank you for defending it. These are both awful ideas, and I just bravo to the CISO series community for continuing to deliver innovative and new terrible ideas. I think for me, I'm gonna go. This is so hard. I'm gonna go with higher lapsus because you really don't know what you're getting. You're hiring a criminal group. They have proven time and again that there's no one leader of the group, and that they're happy to double cross, and to, they could just as easily tell you everything that's wrong and then compromise you and then sell your data as easy as to tell you what to fix. That's probably a bad idea. I really like the Cards Against Humanity thing because why not share with your board members some really terrible ideas that come in that deck and ruin your credibility? Real toss up here.
Yeah, that's tough. I'll have to go with the lapsus one too. I've never been a fan of hiring criminals.
But then here, I'm an argument for why it's not so bad. They are 16 and they're extremely malleable at 16. So I throw that out.
There are also very few consequences for you at that age. So
yes, your ability to control your actions is very limited still at 16.
All right. Thank you very much, Ted. Thank you very much, Dutch, for stepping in for Sean as well. We greatly appreciate you being here. And we have 9 minutes left in today. And for those of you who are on right now, please stick around for our meetup. It is really a lot of fun. Get a chance to connect with your other security professionals. We just do it for a half hour right after the show. Just a great way to sort of break the ice and find out how everyone else has been doing. And if you're looking at a network, you're looking for new opportunities, there are usually many people there that are looking to hire as well. So make sure that you stick around for that. And if you haven't registered for next Friday's video chat, go ahead and do that. All right. All right. Jeff, and maybe say this about your last one or just ones in general, but what does a tabletop exercise tell you about your security program?
Oh, I think it tells you a lot less about your security program than it tells you about the leaders and the other teams around security. But that's part of your security program. It's dealing with everything else. Yes. Yeah, well, I think when you use the capital S security, capital P program definition of it for the organization and not just the security team,
yes,
it teaches you a lot. And
yes,
largely what it teaches you, or not specifically me, it teaches the people who are not part of security that they are stakeholders and they have a lot to contribute to security outcomes of the organization that are not just handled by me. And that's honestly one of the reasons I like them, because in a well-functioning security program, more security should be happening outside of the security team than inside the security team. And what I mean by that is not engineers on other teams should be doing, security work or incident response, but people should be accountable for security outcomes more so outside of security than inside security. And tabletop exercises really helps reinforce that. But
let me ask this. Do you think, and this is my feeling, I think without tabletop exercises, when disaster hits, nobody knows who does what. And that
correct.
You absolutely need the tabletop, because what other way do they know who does what until you have the table exercise? I mean, is there another mechanism, or tabletop is
sure.
it, pretty much.
There's well, is there an effective mechanism? No, that's tabletop is the most effective mechanism.
Okay.
There are absolutely documents and presentations and trainings that everyone, I'm sure, dutifully attends and commits their responsibilities to memory. But the tabletop exercise, the practical exercise, is the best way to do that. That's just like, look, in the 90s and the early 2000s, we did full recovery, disaster recovery exercises where everybody went out and actually flipped the switches and, actually tried to recover things. That's the kind of thing that reminds people of what their responsibility is.
All right, Dan, I'm going to have you answer this, and then we're going to wrap up the show with closing comments. So what does the tabletop exercise tell you about the entire organization? We'll say it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think it really brings to light to the other stakeholders outside of security and maybe even IT that of what the challenges are, that and how the security team is conducting these types of investigations and what everybody else's role is. I think you start to get a lot of external support outside of the security team just by them recognizing like, oh yeah, there's a lot going on here. So I think I couldn't agree more on that with Jeff. And then the second, I think, is the whole adage of like practice makes perfect, or train while we fight while we train. Adrenaline is in a high state of affairs when you're in the heat of a true incident, and so if you're not as prepared for that, you're going to make mistakes, right? And so that's the whole notion of like going on mission trainings to be able to think quickly and make the right choice where it's more habit than not is an important skill to continue to hone. And that's what tabletop exercises do. It gets that adrenaline rush. It gets, oh, what would I do? And you want to create that sense of urgency so that when the firefight actually does happen, you're making better decisions throughout that process.
Excellent point. All right, let me wrap this all up. Just some final things, and then I want everybody's final thoughts on our conversation today. A huge thanks again to Dan's company, PlexTrack, for sponsoring this and being a phenomenal sponsor of CISO Series. If you are trying to beef up your proactive security, purple teaming, and essentially you need a guide to help you with that. And if you don't have one, take a look at PlexTrack. If you do have one, take a look at PlexTrack. So in other ways, take a look at them. We like them. You should check them out as well. Starting in 90 minutes from now at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific, we do our cybersecurity headlines week in review. And our guest today is Flea, Frederick Lee, CSO of Gusto. He is awesome. If you haven't heard Flea, he's very entertaining. So that will not be here. It'll be on the CISO Series LinkedIn, the LinkedIn Live there. So just go to CISO Series page on LinkedIn to see that as well. Stick around for our meetup. Go ahead, click the link at the very bottom of the screen. It's just been changed. Thank you so much, Aaron, our producer. His first time producing. Round of applause for Aaron for doing an awesome job producing today. He's kicking butt. We greatly appreciate that. Everyone should show up. CISO, first time in cybersecurity, vendor, PR, someone who just randomly jumped onto the computer. Show up. I don't care who you are. We want you to stick around for the meetup. Tell your friends to join us. We do this every Friday, or most Fridays. We're going to be off for a couple weeks after next week. But 1 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And if you would like to sponsor Super Cyber Friday, go ahead and email me at david@cisoseries.com. All right, we have just a couple minutes left. I will start with you, Dan. Dan, final thoughts on this topic. If you want to make a plea, an offer about PlexTrack, please go ahead and do so now.
Oh yeah, no, thanks. We always enjoy being on. So thanks for having us, Jeff. Thanks. It was a great conversation. And so I think definitely like continue to focus on where can you be more proactive in your security program and show the value that you're getting out of all the hard work that you're putting in on configuration and training and all those things. And yeah, check us out, plextrack.com. If you sign up and mention that you saw us here, we'll get you some free swag. So.
Oh, that's that.
We got some comfy
that is a good offer.
We've got some comfy shirts. We've got some cool like little Yetis and things like that.
Those are cool.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Now that is an offer. All right, Jeff, your final thoughts. By the way, if you don't know, Jeff is always hiring over at LinkedIn. And Jeff, will you have time to join us for a few minutes over in the meetup portion? Yes?
Absolutely.
All right. So Jeff will be over there as well. Your final thoughts, just a minute.
My final thoughts are, look, reactive security is great. And when you can get the support of your org to do it, do it. But reactive doesn't have to be a bad word. It isn't a bad word, but it's a better word. proactive security.
Mm-hmm.
Find the things that you already know are broken and focus on those first, and prioritize those with your leadership team. They will appreciate it and your team will feel better. And I think this is a key part that Dan mentioned that I want to pull out. The morale of your team will improve because everybody enjoys when things are getting better.
Ah, that is true. That's a very good point. And I want to close on that. That's really good. Everyone likes seeing things get better. They feel better about themselves. They feel better about the job. They feel better about staying where they are, too, I should point out, on top of it all. All right. Huge thanks to Dan DeCloss, CEO over at PlexTrack, and to Jeff Belknap, who's a CISO over at LinkedIn. I think it's time for us to wrap this all up. We'll wrap it up a whopping 20 seconds early. Thank you also to Aaron, our awesome producer, and Andrew backing him up as well. Aaron, take us out.